Welcome back to Nick Lenz's Comic Corner, classic slash non-classic. This is episode number 508 and Doubleshot number 419. Two SpiderMan trades. First up, it is SpiderMan Slash, the Black Cat. The Evil That Men Do. Written by writer-director Kevin Smith and artwork by Terry and Rachel Dotson. This trade contains the entire 6-issue limited series. Before I begin talking about a review of this series, I have to talk about the mild controversy surrounding this series. Or at least also in the course, its publication period. It started publishing in 2002, published 3 issues, and then for some reason, it's never explained exactly why, per se. It's just that, from what I've heard, Kevin was kind of lazy. He has a reputation for doing this. He apparently put the series on hold for 3 years. 3 to 4 years. Issue 4 to come out till 2006. Yes. And also, this miniseries revealed something that nobody knew about the Black Cat. Apparently, when she was in college, she was raped. Yes. Black Cat is a rape victim. Yeah, and it's also implied she was raped in the actual main story. And despite the fact, yes, this came out in 2002. Now, reading this comic, I'm so questioning, like, where the heck is Mary Jane in all this? Well, the theory I have is that maybe this takes place before they got married. It's a theory. But here's kind of the thing. They do make references to even Daredevil stories, like the whole thing of the Second Coming, the affair with Typhoid Mary, Matt faking his death. As a matter of fact, he's done that like several times over the years. And posing as his own brother. Yeah, Daredevil shows up in here as well. They even have the Kingpin show up at the end, at the end as well. And plus, we get the debut of a new Mysterio. He's Francis Carlin. Who's actually the younger brother, of the first villain in the series, Catcher Cunham, I think his name is, Gellius Cunham, I think his name is, yes. Let's see. I know I'm saying a lot, but that's just the way I am. So, yeah, we have great artwork by Terry Dotson, does a great job drawing this thing. Think here, what else? When it comes to this thing. It's just a really good series, and the series ends basically with Spider-Man Black Cat spending vacation in Paris of all places. Yep, Paris. Let me show some artwork for you. Here's some artwork by Terry Dotson. This is actually a great job drawing this comic. There's at one point of the implied rape when she is drugged, and then the guy who was going to rape her decided to take out a knife and cut up her costume. Yeah. But here's the thing. She didn't kill, and the guy dies off panel. Now, is she responsible for killing the guy? Nope. His brother killed him. Yep. I know I'm spoiling something that is basically a series that is 15 years old. But who cares? Yeah, it's a series by Kevin Smith. It's not the first series I reviewed by him. The last one I reviewed was Whiting Gurr. Yeah. But overall, Kevin Smith does a great job writing the series. It's just basically, if you read the series, basically those people who know about the fact that during this period of time, Spider and Mary Jane were still officially married. And you're reading this and you're like, where is Mary Jane? Never mentioned. Also, there's at one point in the comic where Black Cat kisses Spider-Man through the mask. Yes, he actually does do that. This is just really one great comic book. I mean, yeah, they do make basically a marking here of Terry Dotson Tomorrow Night Spider-Man. But here's the thing. That started 2 years after issue 3 came out. Yeah, I'm not kidding. So he worked on the last 3 issues of this series while he was working on Tomorrow Night Spider-Man. Yeah. So, overall great series, despite Kevin Smith's laziness, but overall great book. Excuse me. I get the reason why he threw in Daredevil in here, because he had previously wrote Daredevil in an 8-issue storyline known as Guardian Devil, which started off the second volume with Daredevil, and a It was Daredevil slash Bullseye the Target. Yeah, I think it was a one shot, but as far as I know, it's never finished. So this is actually this is his third official work he's ever done for Marvel, and during this period of time, like I think it was like just between around the same time these issues were coming out, like right after issue 3 came out, I think he decided to go over to DC to do Green Arrow. Yep, he did Green Arrow for 15 issues. Then left hand of Brad Meltzer. I'm going to get this book a 9 out of 10. Good story, great artwork by the Dodsons. I do recommend it. The only place you can probably find this is Amazon or probably some comic shop that might sell this thing. Alright, next up is another crossover, let's say a team-up series of SpiderMan Slash Red Sonja, which this trade collects the entire 5-issue limited series, plus the first time these two ever teamed up with each other from Marvel Team Up number 79. Yep. Now, the miniseries itself is done by, look it up here, Michael Alvin Oming, and artwork by Mel Ruby. The original story of the first time these two team up, which is done by Chris Claremont and John Byrne, with artwork by Terry Austin. Yep. Now, this series came out in 2007. Now, the Spider-Man villain, who's basically kind of the villain team up with, what's his name? I think his name is, oh yeah, here it is. Kellen Goth, who's actually a co-villain. I heard he's Cole the Conqueror villain. Yep, but he basically fights Red Sonja. As a matter of fact, he even appeared in the most recent Red Sonja book by, I think it's Amy Chu. Yeah, Amy Chu does this thing. When this was being published, the first volume of the Red Sonja comic book was published by Dynamite, and that book lasted for 80 issues before it got restarted by Gail Simone. Yeah, pretty much the story for this one is that there's this senator who visits a museum, which happened to have the Sorcerer's Amulet on display. And the guy's last name is Thomas. I think this guy is supposed to be named after Roy Thomas, the guy who created Red Sonja. Oh yeah, and there's recurring jokes about the chainmail bikini armor, which I have heard in one particular comic book is just a distraction. Yeah, that's really the whole point of the bikini armor. And the artwork is fantastic. Yes, I gotta praise the artwork for this. And they even do something in this comic which basically, which also happens in the original comic book, where Mary Jane, who's doing Macbeth, somehow picks up a sword and magically transforms into Red Sonja. Yes, she does. She transforms into Red Sonja for this comic book. And also, the book itself is kind of a remake of not only the original team-up, but also the two-part that happened in the pages of Uncanny X-Men. Yeah, where Call turned New York City into this fantasy land, and of course, in Spider-Man was called Man-Spider. Yeah, he's still called Man-Spider here. It's like the writer is a huge... It's like the writer just took elements from those two stories and remade it into this really good story. Now, when you... How should I put this properly? When this comic has been coming out, the guy who was Venom in this story is Eddie Brock. At the time of publication of this series, it was Matt Gorgon who was Venom, not Eddie Brock. Eddie Brock gave it up a few years prior to this, so it's implied this is not canon. But if I would take a guess of when this series takes place, and this is just a theory, this was coming out in 2007, this probably takes place before Marvel Knights Spider-Man. That is just a theory I have. I mean, yeah, Spider-Man uses a flip phone in here. Yep. Though nowadays, if he wants to talk to someone on a cell phone, he uses a Bluetooth that he keeps inside of his mask. Yeah, that's what he uses now. Yeah, that's whenever he talks to anybody on the phone, he always uses a Bluetooth. That's basically how he works now. Oh yeah, he's even suggesting getting some Cuban. Yeah, probably some Cuban sandwiches. Yeah, this is something that's really nice. The fact that Ray does remember that, yep, Spider-Man and Jane are married. Despite the fact that's coming out like, let's see, from what I remember, I think this came out just prior to One More Day. Yeah, it was just prior. Because this book came out the same year as One More Day, but it came out before One More Day, from what I remember. Even though the series came out 10 years ago, it's still really good. Yep. And the original story, instead of taking possession of a senator, the animal take possession of a security guard, an old man security guard, and Mary Jane, who is not married to Spider-Man at this point. She just, it's kind of like a date of his, goes to the museum, and Peter also works with a new reporter. Mary Jane just happens to find the sword at complete random. Just like even in the remake story, she finds the sword at complete random, like, oh, this nice shiny sword. Let me pick it up, and then all of a sudden, boom! I transform into Red Sonja, and she remembers nothing of it. Oh, I got to put this out here. During the story, she gets shot. Red Sonja gets shot by cops. She gets shot in the shoulder, and then when she turns her own time, the bullet wound is still there. Excuse me. So I don't know if in the actual main series, this series was referenced or not. I have no idea. I should also point out, though, this was the last crossover series, intercompany crossover that Marvel Comics has ever done. Because as far as I know, Marvel has never done one since then. Despite the fact people have been wanting for years them to do another one. Actually, this is one of the two last ones. The other one, of course, was New Avengers / Transformers. Yep, this one along with that one were the last two Marvel ever did. And then after that, Marvel just stopped publishing them. No idea why. They just did. Though some people really want to see more team-ups. I'll get more teams in a minute. 9.5 out of 10. Great story. Despite minor hiccups with the continuity, it's still a really good story. There are crossovers people do want to see. Like, people want to see Daredevil team with Teenage Mutant Turtles. Yeah, but in the case, what I personally want to see is the New Avengers. I want to see the Brian Michael Bendis lineup, probably before AVX. Yeah, pre-AVX lineup. I want that lineup to team up with the Turtles to take on, let's say, the Shredder, and have it where the Foot team up with the Hand, and have the Hand be led by, let's say, the Gorgon. Not by Elektra per se, the Gorgon. That would be interesting. Oh, I almost forgot. In the Spider-Man Black Cat miniseries, the first thing they ran from Daredevil is the brief period of time when Matt Murdock went nuts and became the kingpin of crime. Yes, I am not kidding about this. In the case of the guy who became Mysterio at the end of the story, he popped up once after that story in an arc for Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. After that, where he basically was in the story with the first two Mysterios. Currently, there's 4 people with Mysterio. Yep. And then he disappeared. Never to be seen again. Yep. Because, excuse me. If the Bendis lineup crosses up with the Turtles, there's some teams I'd like to see basically characters interact with each other, like Spider-Man interacting with Donatello because of a scientist. In the case of Leonardo, who would I have team up with him? I would have it where it is, and this is my personal guess because the whole leadership thing, I could probably say Luke Cage. No, wait. How about Iron Fist? Yeah, because Iron Fist was actually part of the lineup at that point. You have Iron Fist interact with Leonardo. I would have Luke Cage interact with Raphael. And Michelangelo, I would have him interact with probably either Jessica Jones or even Miss Marvel, for crying out loud. Yeah, it could be anybody you could interact with. But that's a crossover I personally would love to see. I also love to see them cross the New Avengers crossover with the Ghostbusters. Or even do another crossover with the Transformers. Yeah, but who knows if Marvel would ever do another one, because the reasoning I've heard, and it's the most stupidest reason, people said Marvel has to stick up their rear ends and say, no, we're not doing more crossovers at all. Despite the fact it's been 10 years since the last one. DC still does it. And another thing I've heard is like, oh, we don't need crossovers because we're doing fine, despite the fact that half the time your sales over the past few years have been terrible. Yes. Alright, so that is it for this episode. Next episode is episode 510. Yeah, it is. I just want to make sure this is correct. Next episode is 509 and Doubleshot are 420, and it's 2 DC trades. One is a Batman trade, the other is going to be a Teen Titans trade. You'll find out what they are in the very next episode. Okay? Until I see you on the next episode, bye.